Chapter 41. Those who obey me prosper, those who defy me perish. Lu Jingming did not have absolute faith in Juzi's scheme this time. He was more in a let's try and see frame of mind. If Juzi could really become the Empress War God of the Sun Moon Empire, just like in the original story, he could take the Sun Moon Empire without lifting a single soldier. If she failed, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Her military talent was unquestionable. With some cultivation, she would still be a trump card for him later. That was why Lu Jingming had gone to Black Tower to commission that special 9th grade spirit tool to guarantee Juzi's safety. He would never skimp on protection or support for those who worked for him. If Juzi wanted to kill Duke White Tiger, let her. Whether the Duke lived or died made no difference to Lu Jingming. The little fox, pressed to his chest like a hand warmer, lay limp and content, its limbs soft and pliant, so he could do as he pleased. He wondered, with a faintly guilty smile, whether the godchild would give him an electric shock when it recovered its memory and will, if it remembered these embarrassing moments. Playing with the fox, Lu Jingming looked up at the endless blue sky and drifting clouds. His gaze seemed to pierce space itself, reaching to the vast universe and the god realm hidden among the stars. Although the God King now held dominion over Douluo Continent, a solution was not impossible. The God King was not omnipotent in the God realm. He had enemies. He could not constantly watch Douluo Continent. Otherwise, the god of emotion, Rong Nianbing, would not have been able to take a liking to Huo Yuhao while monitoring the land for him. Since learning he had arrived on Douluo Continent during the peerless Tang sect era, Lu Jingming had quietly laid his plans. Douluo Continent was within reach. The God Realm could be next. If it could be called the Tang Clan Continent and the Tang God Realm, why not the Lu Clan Continent and the Lu God Realm? Xiaoming, your move. A soft voice pulled him back from his reverie. Across from him, Zhang Lexuan offered a faint smile. Between them a chessboard lay arranged, black and white pieces locked in a struggle. The board favored the white, but Lu Jingming, who held the black pieces, had not moved for a long time. Lexuan, do you know the truth of this world? He asked, instead of making a play. Lexuan blinked, a puzzled look crossing her face. After a moment, she said, that the strong are revered? Lu Jingming nodded faintly, then slowly shook his head. His slender fingers picked up a black piece and slammed it down on the board. The sharp crack sliced the quiet, a sound that startled the little fox into shivering, its pink ears and tail suddenly alert and adorably perky. The truth of this world can be summed up in 8 words, Lu Jingming said, his voice cold and commanding. Those who obey me prosper, those who defy me perish. A chill rolled off him like a tangible thing. Zhang Lexuan's thoughts stumbled. Never before had Lu Jingming given her this strange, dominant impression. In her mind, he had always been the mischievous younger brother, sometimes tasteless, always attentive and gentle. This sudden coldness felt foreign, and for a moment an inexplicable panic prickled through her. Her gaze flicked to the chessboard and froze. She leaned forward, as if to make sure she hadn't imagined it, and then a faint, unreadable smile curved her lips. She let out a soft chuckle. Xiaoming, is something missing from the board? Lexuan, what are you talking about? Everything's here, he answered calmly, expression unreadable. A faint black mist coiled in his hand. Slowly, several white pieces were swallowed by the shadow and vanished as if they had never existed. You! Zhang Lexuan shook her head, then reached out and tapped his forehead with a fond, exasperated gesture. Her eyes warmed with affection. I concede. Looking at the white pieces now in disarray after those crucial losses, she gave up the game simply. Her earlier disquiet melted away. The strange alienation that had touched her heart felt like a passing illusion. King, who had been scribbling and drawing on a map nearby, glanced at the commotion. A flicker of disdain passed through her violet eyes. She rolled them and muttered with theatrical annoyance, "You really can't bear to lose." She did not believe Lu Jingming, whose chess skills were half-baked at best, could beat Zhang Lexuan, who had studied under Chongli's true teachings. Just tell me if I won or not, Lu Jingming said, pointing at the board with a grin that seemed meant to needle her. Qing twitched a corner of her mouth and turned back to her map, refusing to be baited. This fool had a skin thicker than a city wall and was not worth the trouble. Lu Jingming felt a twinge of disappointment. He enjoyed their sparring. It was entertaining. The little fox, having been frightened, finally recovered and sprang at Lu Jingming, claws out in a mock attack. Zhang Lexuan rested her chin in her hands and smiled as she watched him flounder under the fox's furry onslaught. Tenderty filled her eyes. In that moment, she thought, for the first, how she wished time could freeze, how lovely it would be if this scene could last forever. Ah, it's the little fox. Little fox, we're here to play. Two identical childish voices suddenly chattered. The pink-furred fox stiffened at the sound. It abandoned its mock fight with Lu Jingming and bolted instead. Two small figures with long blue hair streaked past Lu Jingming and Zhang Lexuan like a gust of wind, hot on the little fox's heels. They were the twin sisters, Lan Susu and Lan Luoluo. Ever since the last banquet, the twins had been obsessed with visiting Haya Villa. There was always something new to discover, and for children, the place was irresistible. And there was the adorable pink-furred fox everyone doted on. The twins could not resist the lure. Whenever they had free time, they dashed to Lu Jingming's place, so often that the Jinwei guards now let them pass without announcing them. Chapter 42. Re-entering the Star-Dew Great Forest. The pitiful pink fox had finally met its natural enemy. The two little girls adored it, but they were young and rough-handed. They had often petted so hard that the fox's fur would come off, so now the moment the pink creature saw them, it bolted away instinctively. Leisurely, happy days always passed too quickly. Only half a month remained before the 2023 All-Continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy tournament hosted by the Heaven Dew Empire. In the meantime, Spirit Master Academies across the Douluo Continent were secretly preparing for the continent's top event. Chongli had already finished registering St. Freya Academy's team. 7 competitors were confirmed. Besides Zhang Lexuan and Keiqing, the other 5 were recent recruits, talent that, frankly, had little promise on the Spirit Master path. So they had decisively sold themselves to Lu Jingming and undergone the Fusion Warrior operation. After the tournament, they would leave St. Freya Academy, abandon their original identities, and join the Jinwei and Wuchang divisions. But before that, they had to give everything in this competition. It was precisely because of this tournament that they'd gotten the chance to undergo Fusion Warrior surgery. With limited resources and no merits of their own, they only received Spirit Ancestor level fusion surgery. That suited their role anyway. They were supplementary. The real heavyweights were Zhang Lexuan and Keiqing. Zhang Lexuan and Keiqing had spent a year safeguarding themselves in the Golden Tree of Shrek Academy and had long ago broken through to the Spirit Saint realm. On their return with Jingliu's aid, they'd each obtained a 7th Spirit Ring. With 2 Spirit Saints leading the team, St. Freya Academy's victory in the tournament seemed all but assured. Their flying spirit tool battleship, the Sea Abyss, had been left in Shrek City for Ningguang's use, and the second battleship still wasn't finished. In the end, Zhang Lexuan and the others had to rely on flying spirit tools to travel to the Heaven Dew Empire. The traveling party, besides the 7 competitors, included Jingliu and Lu Jingming, 9 people in total, and, of course, the pink little fox. Lu Jingming needed to enter the Stardew Great Forest to obtain his 3rd Spirit Ring, and he was also curious about the tournament. A world-class event like this was too lively to miss. He had always been driven to explore the world beyond Sea Abyss City. Text descriptions had only taken him so far. This was a good chance to see more of the Heaven Dew Empire. Because Lu Jingming planned to go into the Stardew Great Forest, the route required a detour. Half a month was plenty of time for what he needed, acquiring a 3rd Spirit Ring. At first, his thinking was bounded by common sense among spirit masters, that spirit abilities depended on the attribute of the spirit beast. When he obtained his 1st ring, he actively hunted beasts with destruction and death attributes. But after his 2nd ring, Herta explained the truth. His abyssal white flower was different. No matter the attribute of the spirit ring he absorbed, the ability he gained would be the power inherent to the abyssal white flower itself. Absorbing rings and improving cultivation was essentially unsealing the white flower's true power. What determined the strength of his spirit abilities was not the attribute of the beast, but the age of the spirit ring, The older the ring, the stronger the power released. Once he understood that, Lu Jingming stopped trying to find only death and destruction beasts. Those kinds were rare, and he had high standards for ring age. For his third ring, ordinary spirit elders typically absorbed 1,000-year rings. Lu Jingming aimed at 10,000-year rings. Physically, he could endure the excruciating pain of absorption thanks to his body quality and the creative resilience of the white flower. Mentally, he had a trump card, an extremely condensed mental force. He had practiced swordsmanship since childhood, but not merely sword techniques. Jingliu had taught him to temper his mind into a blade to condense sword intent. Once sword intent reached true maturity, any weapon could unleash devastating power. Although Lu Jingming's sword intent hadn't yet hit the threshold of entry, his mental force had risen steadily through long practice. His mental fortitude already exceeded that of most mental-type spirit masters his rank. That gave him confidence to absorb a 10,000-year spirit ring. He didn't fear being blasted to death by violent spirit power, nor did he worry his soul would be damaged by the remnant spirit of an ancient beast. Even though later methods could raise ring age, the spirit power feedback from absorbing rings older than his rank would save him a lot of cultivation time. On arrival at the Stardo Great Forest, Zhang Lexuan and Kei Qing led the team to wait at the forest's edge. Only Lu Jingming and Jingliu entered. The pink fox stayed behind with Kei Qing. Because their target was an exceptionally old spirit ring, Jingliu took Lu Jingming deep into the forest core, where the spirit beasts were more aged and boasted stronger bloodlines. Still, finding a ring of around 10,000 years wasn't easy. They spent a long time searching. They encountered several powerful spirit beasts along the way, many with ages far beyond what Lu Jingming dared attempt. Then Jingliu sensed a movement, a beast racing at high speed. Its aura was of light and fire, and its cultivation age read around 10 to 15,000 years. High, but within the upper limit, Lu Jingming was determined to try for. More importantly, the beast's aura resonated in a way that suited the abyssal white flower. At Jingliu's signal, black mist seeped over Lu Jingming's hand, and a jet-black long spear coalesced in his grip. He advanced a few steady steps into a small clearing and waited in silence for the beast to appear. A 10,000-year spirit beast already had the combat strength of a spirit king. A 15,000-year one would be even fiercer. By normal reckoning, such an opponent would crush a spirit elder like Lu Jingming. But he felt no fear. He was not an ordinary spirit master. His body quality, his far-advanced mental force, and the abyssal spear in his hand all gave him confidence to challenge above his rank. To him, this was still just a monstrous animal, its intelligence still dominated by bestial instinct, and he believed he could handle it. As dusk fell, the forest grew unnervingly quiet. Lu Jingming's heart tightened. His mental force picked up a spirit power aura approaching fast. But it wasn't just one spirit beast. Ahead of the spirit beast Jingliu had mentioned, another was sprinting away in blind panic. Lu Jingming frowned. Judging by its aura, this fleeing beast was also ancient, on the order of 10 to 15,000 years. Clearly, this was a hunt. The pursuer was the spirit beast. Jingliu had considered suitable to become his spirit ring. Jingliu, who had also sensed the fleeing creature, made a small, disapproving face. An animal that couldn't even stand its ground against an equal-rank predator and only knew how to run was not, to her mind, fit to be Lu Jingming's spirit ring. She simply told him there was a spirit beast behind them and ignored the fleeing one. Wind sliced through the clearing as running footsteps drew near. Lu Jingming's eyes narrowed. A massive spirit beast thundered into view, 8 meters long, 3 meters high at the shoulder. Golden fur rippled with red flame patterns. Deep amber eyes burned with intelligence. Its limbs were wreathed in blazing fire, and the tail tip flared with dazzling light, radiating powerful light energy fluctuations. Lu Jingming's pupils contracted. In the 2 years since he'd first entered the Stardo Great Forest, he'd learned far more about spirit beasts. These features made identification instant. This was a holy flame heavenly tiger, a top-tier light and fire spirit beast, and yet it was fleeing for its life, chased by a beast of the same age and rank. Jingliu turned as well, surprise flashing in her gaze. From a distance, she had only sensed the tiger's aura and had misjudged its species. Teacher, take it! Lu Jingming reacted immediately. Of all beings of that rank, only Jing Lu could drive a top-tier spirit beast to such a panic. Besides, a light attribute Holy Flame Heavenly Tiger fit her like a carved meal. Cold air rushed in. The temperature plunged. On the open grassland, an iceberg rose, encasing the Holy Flame Heavenly Tiger like a tomb. The tiger's eyes still held terror. It hadn't yet recovered from the hunt when Jing Lu froze it. The hunter that had been closing in suddenly hit the brakes, skidding to a halt on all fours. And from further away came an even more oppressive aura, terrifying and layered with violent flame energy. Lu Jingming focused. The new spirit beast had golden fur with faint, hidden golden scales beneath. Its limbs ended in dragon claws wreathed in golden fire. A bloody vertical pupil marked the center of its forehead. Lu Jingming's mouth twitched. He looked at Jing Liu with a half-amused, half-resigned expression. This was the imperial auspicious beast, the three-eyed golden lion. He quietly put away his black abyss. Any grand ambitions he'd had evaporated. He might have stood a chance against the Holy Flame Heavenly Tiger, but the imperial auspicious beast was on a completely different level. Don't be fooled by both beasts being some thousands of years old. The imperial auspicious beast's strength was comparable to a 100,000-year spirit beast, its combat power equivalent to a titled Douluo. With Lu Jingming's current spirit power rank, he was nothing before it. A single strike might send him begging for mercy. Jing Liu had not been wrong in theory. If he could truly take the auspicious beast's spirit ring, the power gained would be immense. But the premise was being able to kill it. And beyond that, the forest held other dangers, vicious beasts and the Silver Dragon King lurking in the dark, and the first to come calling would likely be God King Tang San. The imperial auspicious beast represented the forest's fate and luck. It had long drawn Tang San's attention. Lu Jingming didn't want to bring that kind of trouble down on himself for a third spirit ring. The imperial auspicious beast regarded the frozen Holy Flame Heavenly Tiger, a feral gleam in its eyes, then looked at Lu Jingming and Jing Liu with curious intensity. Although majestic and handsome, the beast's voice was unexpectedly clear and melodious, almost impossibly so from such a 3-meter creature. And despite its appearance, the auspicious beast was female, an odd contrast that made it hard not to smile. "Human, that is my prey," she said. Lu Jingming couldn't resist a tease. "Oh, how do you prove it's your prey? My teacher caught it." The imperial auspicious beast froze, genuinely flummoxed. Her small, simple mind started spinning. Right, how could she prove the tiger was hers? She stood there, bewildered, unable to answer. Before she could recover, a crimson figure intervened. "Auspicious beast, are you all right?" A deep voice rolled through the clearing as a huge spirit beast entered. 3 lion-like heads crowned its body, 5 meters long, dark red fur cloaked it, and crimson flames danced along its pelt. It first scanned the auspicious beast, and only when it found her safe did it relax. "Auspicious beast, how can I prove this is my prey?" the auspicious beast asked. Her single, honest question left the Crimson King speechless. It had overheard Lu Jingming and the auspicious beast's exchange and, frankly, hadn't expected such blunt honesty from her. When she usually dealt with others, she wasn't this naive. Lu Jingming blinked. The imperial auspicious beast, not even half fused with Tang Wutong's divine sense, was truly innocent. The Crimson King's expression hardened into caution. This wasn't a dispute among spirit beasts anymore. Humans were involved, and the presence of Jing Liu put him on edge. He had already silently alerted Di Tian. Even from a distance, the crisis Jing Liu radiated felt enormous. Throughout the Stardew Great Forest, only Di Tian, apart from the sleeping lord, could project such a presence. Facing a being far beyond its own capabilities, and with the auspicious beast at risk, the Crimson King had to be careful. Chapter 44, Beast God Di Tian. In the core of the Stardew Great Forest, the damp, heady scent of vegetation hung in the air. Towering trees wove a roof overhead, blotting out the sky. Only a few stubborn rays of sunlight slipped through the leafwork to scatter across the moss-covered floor. "Humans, leave this place. You can take this sacred flame sky tiger with you." The Red King stood guard, wreathed in faint flame. Its massive limbs were braced on the ground, its broad body shielding the Emperor Auspicious Beast. A few tongues of flame flickered from one maw, The feral arrogance of a top 10 vicious beast was gone, replaced by anxiety. Beads of sweat as big as beans streaked down its snout. Why, Red King, this sacred flame sky tiger is my prey. Why should they have it? The Emperor Auspicious Beast's normally bright eyes widened. The golden flames along her flank flared and snapped, tongues of fire writhing. Since birth, she had been cosseted in the Stardew Great Forest. No one had ever dared openly take her prey. How could she tolerate this? Oh, but you can't prove it's yours. Why can't we have it? Lu Jingming answered quickly, and the auspicious beast was speechless. She paced, twitching her golden fur in irritation. The look she sent Lu Jingming could have ignited tinder. He had been pestering her with questions that made her head ache. The Red King's 3 heads bobbed helplessly. If only it could send these 2 humans away. It was only a 10,000-year spirit beast, common enough in the forest. The sacred flame sky tiger had nearly been the auspicious beast's meal, but there was nothing it could do against her direct displeasure. In the whole Stardew Great Forest, only Ditian and BG could handle this little tyrant. Even other powerful beasts like the Bear Lord could only shake their heads at her caprices. Auspicious beast, let's go. I'll help you find another sacred flame sky tiger, one older and tastier than this. The Red King softened its tone, trying to cajole. The Emperor Auspicious Beast hesitated. An older sacred flame sky tiger would indeed be juicier. Still, she glanced at Lu Jingming and at the tiger, sealed completely in ice, and stubbornly shook her head. No, unless you tell me how I can prove that this sacred flame sky tiger is my prey. The Red King was flummoxed. Nothing had been marked, and it was obvious the human had captured the tiger first. How could she prove it? It's simple. If you can prove you're stronger than him, then the prey is yours. A low, majestic voice cut through the clearing. Space in front of the Red King bowed outward like the surface of a lake struck by a boulder. Cracks spidered across the air, then it split with a crash, tearing open into a bottomless, pitch-black rift. A middle-aged man in black stepped through. Ditian. At Ditian's appearance, the Red King visibly relaxed, letting out a long, tremulous sigh. If things went wrong here, it would be in trouble. Now someone could resolve it. The Emperor Auspicious Beast's large, watery eyes brightened. Ah! Of course. If I'm stronger than you, it's my prey. Of course, that was how it had always been in the forest. Strength determined ownership. She looked at Lu Jingming with hungry eagerness, ready for a contest. Lu Jingming stepped forward and instinctively placed himself in front of Jingliu, shielding his teacher with a resolute expression. Jingliu, blindfolded, stood impassive. Nothing on her face betrayed what she thought. Ditian's gaze locked on Jingliu with equal intensity. The air tightened as if compressed by an unseen weight, oppressive and suffocating. Sensing danger, the auspicious beast backed up a few steps, fear and unease replacing her previous aggression. Then, like a thunderclap, black and red lightning tore through the void realm. An invisible tide of chi swelled between the two, scattering the thick clouds overhead. Lu Jingming heard the sharp whisper of a sword, and, at almost the same instant, a deafening roar like a dragon. Jingliu and Ditian each staggered, retreating half a step. On the ground between them, a gouge appeared, as if the earth itself had been cut away. A bottomless sword mark edged with frost. Beside it, a dark claw mark yawned, exuding a malevolent aura. Whatever exchanged hands in that heartbeat had been too quick for anyone else to follow. Light and shadow had danced, leaving only those 2 abyssal scars. Humans are indeed favored. When did such a powerful being among humans appear? Ditian's face was grave. He had never heard of a human of such caliber. Beast god Ditian, truly living up to your reputation. Jingliu replied coolly, but beneath her calm something awake within her. For the first time in this world, she had not immediately dominated. While Ditian had seemed insignificant when she was at her peak, now his strength was enough to oppose her, and that stirred a long dormant interest. Ditian turned to the Emperor Auspicious Beast and spoke gently, explaining the result. Auspicious Beast, you see, I cannot declare that you're stronger than her. By the rule you proposed, you can't claim this prey. The Auspicious Beast's shoulders drooped. I understand, Dean, she said softly, disappointment heavy in her voice. Chapter 45, Silver Dragon King. Guiena, although Ditian usually indulged her, she knew better than to be willful now. The human powerhouse before them was too dangerous, no one to provoke. Let's go. Ditian cast a long look at Lu Jingming behind Jingliu, then turned and led the Emperor Auspicious Beast and the Red King deeper into the Stardew Great Forest. The Emperor Auspicious Beast glanced back at Lu Jingming, not with resentment that its prey had been taken, but with a curious, almost yearning look, curiosity about humans and a longing for the unknown world beyond. We should leave too. It isn't wise to linger, Jingliu said abruptly. Lu Jingming flinched, then reacted instantly, his expression tightening as he quickly nodded. He hurriedly sealed the ice-bound Saint Flame Heavenly Tiger into a spirit tool designed to hold living creatures. Ditian could not threaten Jingliu, and whoever had made Jingliu feel such unease was clearly neither Ditian nor the vicious beasts. It could only be the sleeping Silver Dragon King, Gu Yuena. She's awake? Lu Jingming's headache deepened. Running into the Emperor Auspicious Beast had been one thing. Drawing Ditian out had been within expectations, but the Silver Dragon King waking, none of that had been in his plans. It should be her, Jingliu said. She had heard Lu Jingming speak of this world's secrets, and the Silver Dragon King was clearly crucial. Just now she had felt a gaze fall on her, and with her strength not yet fully recovered, that presence had felt threatening, like facing the envoy of abundance, Shuhu, back then. Even at her peak, the Silver Dragon King would have been far below Shuhu, but now she was injured. A direct fight would be dangerous. The odds of Gu Yuena attacking were small, but the thought of such a powerhouse watching from the shadows was unnerving. Better to withdraw. BG, the Auspicious Beast is yours. Ditian returned to the forest's core with the Red King and the Emperor Auspicious Beast. Rich energy permeated the core. Flowers, plants, and trees shimmered with strange light. Ditian nodded to a soft-featured, green-haired woman who stepped forward. BG smiled faintly and bowed, understanding what had happened. She soothed the Emperor Auspicious Beast and led her away. Go cultivate. That big bug won't last long. Ditian said to the Red King in a low, even voice. Yes. The Red King brightened immediately, nearly bursting with glee. Not only would he avoid punishment for his earlier ineffectiveness, he would also continue to siphon life force from the fortunate giant. The creature was a million-year spirit beast, its life origin vast. In recent years, the number of 100,000-year spirit beasts in the Stardew Great Forest had risen, and the vicious beasts had grown steadily stronger, largely thanks to it. It was a pity that despite its age, the giant was pitifully weak in combat. Even an ordinary 100,000-year wild beast could easily take it down. If it had been powerful in battle, it would never have been reduced to an energy AM for the forest's vicious beasts. Ditian returned alone to the Lake of Life. He stood at its edge, then slowly knelt on one knee, head bowed in reverence. Master, that young man. His voice trembled with a tangle of emotions, doubt, shock, bewilderment. An ethereal voice drifted from the depths of the void realm, its tone transcendent and strangely gentle. It is indeed destruction and creation, but still too weak. Ditian's body convulsed, horror flitting across his features. The combined power of destruction and creation, so perilous a force that even the dragon god had struggled to master. It was precisely because the dragon god attempted to wield those two opposing powers that his spirit could not bear the strain. His spirit fragmented, setting off a chain of tragedies and becoming the root of countless disasters. Even now, in the god realm, the god king of destruction and the god king of life, husband and wife, could not bear children because their opposite natures conflicted. The very idea of balancing both forces was terrifying. And yet that power had surfaced in a human youth. What's more, the destructive and creative forces within him seemed to harmonize naturally, as if they had always been one. Both Ditian and Gu Yuena found this astonishing. This was something the old dragon god had failed to achieve. It had been accomplished by an ordinary human youth. How could they not be shaken? If the Silver Dragon King were not grievously injured and Ditian not uncertain of defeating Jingliu, they would have captured Lu Jingming on the spot to probe the origin of this impossible ability. What chance, what accident could have granted a human such illimitable power? It should be two spirits intertwined, Gu Yuena murmured, but exactly how, we must observe. As the Silver Dragon King, Gu Yuena controlled the godhead of creation. To become the new dragon god, she would have to seize the godhead of destruction from the Golden Dragon King, a necessary but perilous path. To do so would likely expose her to the same torment that destroyed the dragon god, the endless conflict between opposing forces. That prospect chilled her. Still, in Lu Jingming, she glimpsed a possibility, a way to reconcile destruction and creation. Even though becoming the new dragon god would be fraught with suffering, and the Golden Dragon King remained sealed in the god realm beyond her reach in her injured state, she could at least begin studying how such powers might be balanced. With that resolve, a silver claw extended slowly from the void realm. Wherever it passed, space splintered like shattered glass, revealing another dimension alive with rich life chi. Within that other space, a graceful, resplendent silver dragon figure became faintly visible, surrounded by radiant vitality. From the tip of the silver claw, a single drop of divine blood fell. As the drop descended, the lake of life reacted like water struck by a pebble. Emerald green ripples expanded outward. The surface seemed to awaken, and the drop was quickly embraced by the living waters. From the lake's depths surged a torrent of life energy, as if 100 rivers had converged. In moments, a small, delicate form began to coalesce on the water. A silver mass of light carrying intense mental resonance swept from the other space and poured into that forming body. The entire process completed in a single, seamless motion. Chapter 46. Guye, your lordship, you. Dishan's face went pale. He could tell at a glance that Guyena had condensed an incarnation from her own divine blood and even split off part of her soul origin into it. If she were the Silver Dragon King at full strength, such a thing might be manageable, but Guyena was severely wounded. This risked making things worse. It's fine. It's only a sleep of 100 years. Compared to the chance that creation and destruction might coexist, this price is bearable. Her voice was ethereal but resolute. On the surface of the lake of life, a black-haired, black-eyed girl opened her eyes. She alighted on the lake as if touching air. The water didn't ripple. She stood there, motionless and unperturbed, like an immortal who had been cast down from the heavens. Her features were delicate and refined, not a beauty to overturn nations, but possessed of an aloofness that set her apart from the noise of the mortal world. That cool, detached aura made people instinctively keep their distance. By looks alone, she might merit 80 points. With that presence, she easily rose above 90. From now on, I will be called Gu Yue. Arrange a human identity for me. It will be a good chance to learn about the current human world, she said softly, her tone gentle and absolute. Yes, your lordship. I'll do it at once. Diqian's voice was deep. He flickered and vanished. Arranging a human identity for Gu Yue was a simple task for him. Lu Jingming, unaware he was being watched by Gu Yuena because of the black abyss white flower, was at that moment absorbing the spirit ring of the sacred flame heavenly tiger under Jingliu's protection. It was an excruciating process. He had to prevent his body from being torn apart by the spirit's fierce power while also contending with the tiger's lingering soul in his mental space. Still, the outcome was never in doubt. He succeeded in absorbing the spirit ring, and he and Jingliu left the Stardo Great Forest and rejoined Zhang Lexuan and the others outside. From there, they flew straight for the Heaven Soul Empire. Because Zhang Lexuan and the others were limited by normal flight speed, the trip took 7 days to reach Heavendew City. If Jingliu had been traveling alone, her speed would have brought them there in mere hours. Heavendew City was one of the continent's great metropolises. Its 10-meter-high gates were imposing, and silver-armored guards patrolled in precision lines, eyes sharp and backs straight. The city was unusually lively. The All-Continent Advanced Spirit Masters Academy Soul Fighting Competition was about to begin. Streets were packed with stalls and shops, their shelves groaning with goods. Spirit masters, merchants, and tourists flowed through the avenues, their voices and bartering blending into the sound of a thriving city. All participating teams had to register at Heaven Soul Plaza in the south end of the city, where the Heaven Dome Grand Hotel, the largest hotel in the Heaven Soul Empire, stood. Registration and accommodation were handled there. Though the city was overflowing and most inns had been booked long ago, the Empire's officials had already made full arrangements for competitors. Lu Jingming and the others soon arrived at the Heaven Dome Grand Hotel and stepped into the lobby. The moment he entered, his gaze landed on a familiar figure, and that person immediately sensed him as well. Sister Lexuan, Kiking, I knew you'd come. A flash of flame-colored hair appeared before Zhang Lexuan and Kiking. It was Ma Xiaotao, wearing a vibrant red dress that matched her fiery personality. She was excited to see them, but she deliberately ignored Lu Jingming. You came early, Xiaotao. Zhang Lexuan was surprised. Shrek Academy was located not far from Heaven Do City, and as the reigning champion, they didn't need to rush to the competition this far in advance. This time, our teacher is leading the team, and we wanted to enjoy Heaven Do City for a bit, so we set out early. Ma Xiaotao said, eyes bright. Previously tormented by the evil fire, she had no chance to join Shrek's reserve team, but since Jingliu had sealed her evil fire, she'd broken free, earned a spot on the reserve team, and obtained the opportunity to compete. Isn't that young city, Lord Lu? This isn't a place for little kids like you. Finally, Ma Xiaotao turned to Lu Jingming, a teasing smile on her lips. She couldn't resist provoking him. Lu Jingming's expression stayed calm. He reached out and stroked the pink-haired fox curled in his arms. The soft fur slid under his fingers. A small, amused smile lifted one corner of his mouth. Heh, am I little? Want to try me? His voice was low, but every spirit master in the lobby had keen hearing. Curious glances immediately flicked their way. Huh? What's there to be afraid of? You want to fight? Ma Xiaotao blinked. She hadn't expected that reply to carry a second meaning, but the spark of challenge in her bones ignited. She answered loudly and without hesitation. Xiao Ming. Zhang Lexun shot Lu Jingming a glare full of reproach. Kaching was quicker. She reached over and grabbed Lu Jingming's ear, scolding him. No flirting! Her cheeks had flushed. She was embarrassed by his words, not expecting him to be so forward. Chapter 47. Wu Ming. Seeing Zhang Lexuan and Kiking's reactions, Ma Xiaotao finally realized what had happened, and her pretty face flushed crimson, like a ripe apple. Flames seemed to blaze in her eyes as she glared at Lu Jingming, teeth clenched, wanting to tear him apart. Heh, can you do it? She spat, throwing caution to the wind and forcing the words out. She straightened her spine and met Lu Jingming's gaze without flinching. Though mortified, she refused to be outdone in aura. Lu Jingming's eyes narrowed at once. As a man, almost anything could be questioned, but being told he couldn't do something was intolerable. He was about to snap back, brimming with pride. All right, you two. Why do you always get so worked up when you meet? Step back. Let it go, Zhang Lexuan said quickly, cutting him off. Zhang Lexuan's eyelids twitched. She thought, this is not good, and stepped forward to mediate. She reached out and pulled Lu Jingming and Ma Xiaotao apart, trying to head off a fight. The retort dying on Lu Jingming's tongue, he met Zhang Lexuan's helpless look, and after a moment's thought, decided to spare her the trouble. He swallowed his words. He took a deep breath, quieted his temper, and his expression relaxed. Ma Xiaotao fell silent too. She was at the peak of her embarrassment. Her ears were burning. Zhang Lexuan had offered her an escape, and she didn't have the stomach to keep up the argument. She knew Lu Jingming might say something even worse if pushed, something that would make her want to hide forever. Xiaotao, are these your friends? A voice asked from behind them. A group of 13 people had approached. The leader was a woman about Zhang Lexuan's age, her long chestnut hair flowing like a waterfall. Gentle, graceful, with delicate features and a faint scholarly aura, she looked like a painted lady, elegant and composed. Yes, Sister Roro, they're my friends. They're here for the All-Continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy tournament too, Ma Xiaotao said readily, nodding and without hesitation, lumping Lu Jingming and the others in with her friends. Lu Jingming was surprised. He'd expected her to exclude him, since he and Ma Xiaotao were usually at odds. Hello, everyone. I'm Han Roro, captain of the Shrek Academy team. Pleased to meet you. Han Roro smiled softly and extended her hand to Zhang Lexuan with poised courtesy, showing all the bearing of her position. I've heard a lot about Shrek Academy, Zhang Lexuan replied, taking her hand. I'm Zhang Lexuan, captain of St. Freya Academy. As their hands met and their eyes locked, an unspoken understanding bloomed between them. Both felt an instant, unexpected familiarity. Admiration and goodwill passed between them, as if old friends had been reunited. Both secretly thought they would get along very well. Xiao Tao, what were you doing just now? Going for someone that young? He's not even 10, is he? A girl with long orange-red hair glided up beside Ma Xiao Tao. Her pink pupils gleamed with mischief as she leaned in and whispered into Xiao Tao's ear, her voice low but clearly audible to everyone. Her gaze lingered on Lu Jingming the whole time. All eyes swung to Ma Xiao Tao like spotlights, leaving her nowhere to hide. Her cheeks flamed. Ashamed and furious, she waved her hands and protested. "What are you talking about, Sister Wu Ming? Don't say such things." Seeing Ma Xiao Tao on the verge of flying into a rage, Wu Ming thought, this could go badly, and quickly took 2 steps back, raising her hands in mock surrender with a flattering grin. All right, I won't tease you anymore," she said playfully, like a mischievous girl admitting defeat. "Hello, little one. I'm Wu Ming. Nice to meet you. I have to say, you've got guts. No boy at the academy dares to talk to Xiao Tao like that," she added, then stepped toward Lu Jingming with bright curiosity. Lu Jingming returned the smile politely. "Hello, Sister Wu Ming. I'm Lu Jingming." He was unoffended and naturally courteous toward a pretty older girl. "Oh, you're adorable." Wu Ming was exuberant. She couldn't help herself. She reached out and pinched Lu Jingming's cheek, then casually stroked the pink-furred little fox cradled in his arms. The fox, roused from its comfortable nest by the sudden touch, bared its teeth in indignation. Who was this stranger to touch it without an offering? "All right, Minger, don't make trouble for others," Han Roro chided, stepping in. Teasing a little boy so openly wasn't proper. Chapter 48, Seeing Shujuju Again. Lu Jingming secretly breathed a sigh of relief when Han Roro stepped in to stop Wu Ming. That overly familiar older sister was so enthusiastic, it had been hard to handle. Now that things had calmed down a little, he finally had time to study the Shrek Academy members more closely. Aside from Han Roro and Wu Ming, the 5 older members present were clearly formidable. Lu Jingming couldn't gauge their exact strength at a glance. The reserve team, however, felt oddly familiar. Apart from Ma Xiao Tao, the most striking presence was a blonde youth, Dai Yaoheng, whose dazzling golden hair and arrogant commanding air made him impossible to miss. The black-haired youth with colorful facial markings and a somewhat androgynous appearance was almost certainly Gongyang Mo. The honest, plain-looking boy with short black hair had to be Yao Hao Xuan. There was Chen Zifeng, cool and aloof with short dark red hair, and a girl who at first seemed unremarkable, but on closer inspection was an absolute beauty, Shi. Finally, a black-haired girl stood apart from Ma Xiao Tao, exquisitely beautiful, with a cool, distant temperament like a snow princess, Ling Luochen. Though young, each reserve member's personality was like a label, and Lu Jingming could identify them all from memory. Without much small talk, Shrek Academy, led by the Heaven Soul Empire staff, checked into a luxurious suite on the top floor of the Heavenly Dome Hotel. Yan Xiao never appeared the entire time, clearly leaving all matters to Han Ruoruo. This, in itself, was a kind of training for the current Shrek 7 Devils. Handling routine affairs would help them gain experience and mature faster. Meanwhile, Zhang Lexuan went to register St. Freya Academy's information. The lead teacher this time was Jing Liu, and Lu Jingming, as the only reserve member, accompanied them. After all, without that status, he wouldn't be allowed to stay in the Heavenly Dome. The hotel had been arranged specially for the participating teams. If every accompanying person stayed freely, even a place this large would have trouble accommodating everyone. Unlike the illustrious Shrek Academy, St. Freya was assigned rooms on the 2nd floor. The accommodations there were decent, but noticeably more ordinary than the top-floor suites. Even so, compared to regular hotels outside the competition, these rooms were still first-rate. The Heavenly Dome was the Heaven Soul Empire's premier hotel, and its standard rooms were far beyond what most people could access. St. Freya was a newly established academy and not yet well known, so it couldn't compete with an academy like Shrek. Lu Jingming and the others didn't mind. They had faith. After this grand competition, even if St. Freya didn't immediately overtake the top schools like Shrek Academy or the Sun Moon Royal Spirit Tool Academy, it would surely climb into the ranks of recognized top academies on the Douluo Continent. Days flew by, and the opening of the All-Continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy Grand Competition drew near. Teams arrived one after another. Even the distant Sun Moon Royal Spirit Tool Academy had checked into the top floor, enjoying the same treatment as Shrek. As the perennial #2 academy, the Sun Moon School held significant sway, and the Heaven Soul Empire naturally showed it considerable face. In the past few days, Lu Jingming had taken the little fox and explored every corner of Heaven Do City. After his tour, he felt disappointed. Compared to Sea Abyss City, the region under his governance, Heaven Do City fell short. It was vast, larger than 10 Sea Abyss cities combined, and its 10,000-year history lent it an imposing, ancient atmosphere, but its buildings and urban infrastructure lagged far behind. The people of the Heaven Soul Empire had a strong disdain for spirit tools, which stunted the development of spirit tool technology. In Heaven Do City, there were no spirit tool trams, and even spirit tool air conditioners for automatic heating were rare. Only top establishments like the Heavenly Dome had such conveniences. Ordinary residents had no access to them. The novelty of being on the Douluo Continent faded quickly, replaced by boredom. Compared to the highly developed world Lu Jingming had known before, the technological level here felt primitive. His original plan to travel widely across the continent evaporated. With a shrug, he returned to the Heavenly Dome. The lobby was far busier than when they'd first arrived. Over 100 teams had registered, and people were constantly coming and going. He was about to head up to the second floor when a faint, refined fragrance drifted past, and a graceful figure stepped in front of him. "Jingming, little brother, long time no see. Do you still remember your sister?" A clear, bell-like voice said. Lu Jingming looked up in surprise. Shujuju stood before him, smiling brightly, warm as spring sunshine, but with a trace of something else beneath the surface. "How could I forget? I could forget everyone else before I forgot you, Juju," he replied quickly, forcing a lively tone. Inside, he reminded himself that Shujuju was an important benefactor and powerful ally at this stage, someone he absolutely could not offend. She had played a major role in getting Saint Freya admitted to the competition. "You really mean that?" Shujuju's voice held a hint of mock offense, her face adopting the pout of a lovesick girl abandoned by a heartless man. It was almost pitiful. Lu Jingming felt a flash of awkwardness. Thinking it over, she had a point. He had only asked for her help by sending a letter and never personally visited Star Luo City. In hindsight, that had been careless. Chapter 49. Princess Vina. When asking for help, it was always best to show up in person with a generous gift to prove your sincerity. "Juju, listen to my listen to my explanation," Lu Jingming blurted, catching himself mid-word. Shujuju's lips twitched. Whatever he almost said seemed to amuse her. She rolled her eyes and put on an exaggeratedly stern expression. "All right, I'm listening. Let's see what excuses you've got." "Juju, you know as a city lord, I'm swamped with responsibilities, big and small, and I can't neglect my cultivation. By day, I practice swordplay and deal with official duties. By night, I have to meditate to strengthen my spirit power. I really have no free time, so please understand." Lu Jingming spoke with earnest sincerity, as if he truly were overwhelmed. Behind Shuju stood a young girl with short golden hair, roughly Lu Jingming's age, with a soft, gentle countenance. Hearing Lu Jingming's words, she nodded slightly, convinced. From her point of view, a boy so young should not be burdened with such cares. That was heart-rending. Her gaze toward Lu Jingming was full of sympathy. Shujuju pressed a hand to her forehead in exasperation. She knew Sea Abyss City's situation well. The cultivation bit might be true, but the official business was mostly handled by young Miss Changli. This lad was still shamelessly trying to put one over on people. "Forget it, I won't argue, but this time you have to come out for a proper walk with your big sister." Shuju waved her hand as if magnanimous, but her tone left no room for refusal. Before Lu Jingming could answer, she grabbed his hand and started to pull him out of the Heaven Dome Grand Hotel. Lu Jingming looked helpless, inwardly rueful. He'd just returned from a tiring trip around Heaven Do City, physically and mentally exhausted, but he couldn't break free of Shujuju's enthusiasm. Resigned, he let her tug him along, offering a wry smile. "Oh, nearly forgot to introduce you." Shujuju suddenly stopped and turned apologetically to the golden-haired girl who had been standing quietly behind her. "This is Vina, Princess of the Heavenly Soul Empire." Vina, this is my younger brother, Lu Jingming. Don't let his age fool you. He's a city lord. Lu Jingming's eyes landed on Vina. He'd noticed her elegant presence from the start and had assumed she was a fellow disciple of Shujuju's star-crowned sect, since they both had golden hair. He hadn't expected her to be Vina, the Heavenly Soul Empire's princess, famed for twin spirits, exceptional talent, and keen wisdom, even more impressive than Shujuju. At 9 years old, her mind raced far faster than her peers, almost oddly mature for someone so young. One of her spirits was a body spirit called the Brain, granting her extraordinary intelligence and an unnaturally composed demeanor. Princess Vina, Lu Jingming said with a slight bow, surprised but polite. Vina's face lit into a soft smile. No need for formalities, just call me Vina, like Juju. From how Shujuju had been speaking, it was clear she held this so-called younger brother in high regard. Vina and Shu were close friends and confidantes, and Vina knew Shu's tastes well. Ordinary people rarely earned Shujuju's attention. When she cared about someone, she did so completely. That Shu would go out of her way like this showed Lu Jingming's importance. Then I won't be shy, Vina. Let's go together, Lu Jingming said easily, extending the invitation. Vina looked at him and inwardly confirmed her impression. This young man was not simple. Though she was a princess, Lu Jingming treated her with natural composure rather than flattery. Pleased, she nodded in agreement. So the three of them left the Heaven Dome Grand Hotel side by side. Is that your pet? What a cute fox, Vina exclaimed, drawn to the small fox perched on Lu Jingming's shoulder. Her name's Shenzi, Lu Jingming said with a smile. Don't be fooled by how cute she looks. She's a handful, but if you have treats, she'll be friendly for a while. Treats? Shujuju and Vina exchanged puzzled looks. She likes fried tofu, Lu Jingming answered. Got it. I'll buy some later, Shujuju said eagerly, eyes bright at the thought of spoiling the fox. The three chatted as they walked, laughter trailing behind them, the mood light and pleasant. From a short distance away, Keiqing frowned and tucked a strand of purple hair behind her ear, a faint electric spark flickering at her fingertips. Isn't his popularity with girls a bit much? She murmured. Xiao Ming's outstanding. Of course girls notice him, Zhang Lexuan chuckled, a proud curl at the corner of her mouth. She watched Lu Jingming and the two girls without any resentment. Keiqing's lips twitched as she glanced at Zhang Lexuan. You're his fiancé. Aren't you going to do something about it? She asked, puzzled by Zhang's indifference. Precisely because I'm his fiancé, I want him to mix with more excellent people, Zhang Lexuan replied calmly, her gaze fixed on the retreating figures. The Lu family has only him left as heir. Spirit legacies on Douluo Continent depend on bloodlines, and it's already difficult for high-rank bloodlines to produce offspring. For the sake of the Lu family's legacy, I don't mind if he has more people by his side. Chapter 50. The Imbalance of Yin and Yang. On the Douluo Continent, polygamy was not uncommon. The inheritance of spirit power and the continuation of a family's bloodline mattered above almost everything else. To make sure a family's spirit legacy did not die out, many noble houses encouraged numerous offspring. Take Dai Hao, the White Tiger Duke of the Star Luo Empire, for example. Although he maintained a reputation for propriety among the nobility, he still kept more than one woman by his side. If even the White Tiger Duke lived that way, there was no need to comment on the rest. With too few heirs, a sudden disaster could sever a bloodline entirely. Look at the star-crowned sect of the Star Luo imperial family. The number of powerful star-crowned spirit owners could be counted on one hand. If something unforeseen happened, that spirit might be lost forever, an unthinkable outcome for families and sects that prized legacy. It's good you're so open-minded, Keiqing said, nodding as she turned to leave. She understood that with Lu Jingming's talents and charisma, his future would inevitably attract many companions, probably mostly girls. Spending so much time together, sparks were bound to fly. Rather than make things harder on herself later, it was better to be mentally prepared. Zhang Lexuan saw the situation clearly, and Keiqing now understood why Lu Jingming adored him. Who wouldn't love such an understanding girl so devoted to him? The 2023 All-Continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy Spirit Douluo Tournament was about to grandly open in Heaven Do City. The venue chosen was the magnificent Heaven Do Great Spirit Arena, an imperial asset that, even under the simulated universe's influence and the quieter days that followed, still retained an awe-inspiring scale. Its grounds could hold well over 100,000 spectators, making it the natural choice for the tournament. Located at the heart of Heaven-Do City beside the Imperial Palace, the arena had endured the test of time and radiated a simple, profound, classical charm. Legend held that the first generation of the Shrek Seven Devils had once stood on this stage during the All-Continent tournament, and their stories had only deepened the arena's mystique. As music rose and hymns echoed through the city, resonant bells trembled the air. From the top of the Imperial Palace, a snow lotus-shaped spirit firework, symbol of the Heaven-Do Empire, ascended, bathing the sky in brilliant light. Amid the cheers of 100,000 people, one by one, 130 Spirit Master Academy teams from across the Douluo Continent made their impressive entries. When all teams had appeared, the Heaven-Do Emperor himself, an acknowledged titled Douluo at the peak, walked onto the platform. Every step he took radiated sovereign majesty, and the arena fell silent. His opening speech, all the usual encouragement and praise, nonetheless stoked the crowd's fervor. Cheers rose in a roaring wave as he officially declared the 2023 tournament open. By tradition, the honor of the opening match always went to the champion team from the previous All-Continent tournament. For 10,000 years, that champion's throne had almost never changed hands. Shrek Academy had held it consistently. Shrek! 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 The arena erupted. The shouts rolled like thunder, wave after wave, bearing witness to Shrek Academy's legendary prestige on the continent and the near-fanatical devotion of its fans. "This popularity is terrifying," King murmured, shaken by the fervor, reminded of the adulation Rex Lapis once commanded during the rite of parting. Lu Jingming shrugged. "They are the continent's #1 academy," he said. "They've held the championship for over 2,000 tournaments across 10,000 years. It's not surprising." Even he found it hard to believe that, over such a long span and dozens of tournaments held every 5 years, no other academy had ever taken the title. He suspected the Golden Tree at Shrek Academy played a decisive role. Talents capable of reaching the Spirit Emperor rank before 20 were like phoenix feathers, extraordinarily rare. The Golden Tree could greatly accelerate the Spirit rank advancement of gifted disciples, giving Shrek a steady pipeline of Spirit Emperor-level prodigies and a reliable foundation for championship teams. When fortune smiled, they might even field multiple Spirit Emperors. This year was no exception. Shrek Academy's Han Roro and Wu Ming had both reached the Spirit Emperor realm, Han Roro particularly so, her spirit rank at least an advanced Spirit Emperor. According to what Lu Jingming had heard from Shujuju, neither the Star Luo Royal Academy nor the Spirit Douluo Royal Academy had produced a Spirit Emperor this year. Across the whole tournament, only the Heaven-Do Empire's Dio Academy and the Sun Moon Empire's Sun Moon Royal Soul Engineer Academy had Spirit Emperor powerhouses leading their teams, and even they would find it difficult to unseat Shrek. As Han Roro led the Shrek team onto the stage, the cheers hit a new peak and the atmosphere boiled over. Lu Jingming noticed a slight imbalance in this year's Shrek 7 Devils. Among the 7, only 2 were male, the rest were female. The strongest members were precisely Han Roro and Wu Ming, 2 beautiful women of contrasting temperaments. His expression flickered. If he hadn't intercepted Zhang Lexuan, would this year's Shrek 7 Devils have been 6 women and 1 man? Then he looked ahead to his own plans. By the next All-Continent tournament in 2024, his own teammates would very likely be 6 young girls. That, he thought wryly, would truly be an imbalance of yin and yang. Chapter 51, 2 Spirit Saints, shock the entire venue. Shrek Academy's opponents fielded 4 Spirit Ancestors and 3 Spirit Elders. That lineup was respectable among the more than 100 teams, but it paled in comparison to Shrek Academy. Facing the famed Shrek, any remaining confidence the other team had evaporated beneath the roar of the crowd. Under such an overwhelming atmosphere, simply standing firm and summoning the courage to fight was an achievement. After all, most contestants were teenagers under 20 who had rarely experienced an event on this scale. Even Ma Xiaotao and the others from Shrek's reserve team were quieted by the fervor. As usual, Shrek Academy presented a formidable face. 2 spirit emperors, and 5 spirit kings. The shine of their spirit rings lit the entire Douluo arena, a sharp, merciless brilliance that pierced into the hearts of rival academies and shattered any hope of winning. The opening ceremony ended to thunderous cheers, and the official elimination rounds, the fierce, exciting matches, began at once. St. Freya Academy was slated for an early match. Zhang Lexuan and Qi King led 5 others onto the stage. Most of the spectators and the opposing team had never heard of St. Freya. A faint look of disdain briefly crossed many faces. But Ma Xiaotao, Han Ruoruo, Xu Juju, and Weena from Shrek watched the unfamiliar academy with particular attention. Zhang Lexuan and Keqing exchanged a meaningful glance, then nodded in tacit agreement. At the referee's clear cry of "Match start," a brilliant silver moon slowly rose in Zhang Lexuan's hand. The silver light had an immediate effect. It drew the whole crowd's attention and made Bai Shu, the lead teacher from the Sun Moon Royal Spirit Tool Academy, sit up straight. Oh, a silver moon spirit? Bai Shu's spirit was the Thousand Machine Umbrella. His titled Douluo name was Thousand Machine. He was a level 93 titled Douluo and a level 9 Spirit Tool Master, head of the Tactical Development Department in the Mingde Hall, and the lead teacher for the Sun Moon Royal Spirit Tool Academy this event. As a personal disciple of Silver Moon Douluo Kong Deming, he knew the Silver Moon spirit intimately. The moment Zhang Lexuan released his spirit, Bai Shu recognized it. This was the same Silver Moon spirit as his teachers. On the Douluo Continent, the lineage and origin of top-tier spirits were usually traceable. Low-tier spirits could show up through sudden mutations, but true top-tier spirits were not random. If 2 people shared the same top-tier spirit, there were almost always bloodlines or other deep connections involved. Exceptions were astronomically rare, and the Silver Moon spirit was certainly not the kind to spring up from nowhere. It was one of the 3 legacy spirits of the Sun Moon Empire's royal family. Bai Shu's expression turned complex. Whether or not his suspicions were correct, he had to report this to his teacher, Kong Deming, as soon as possible. As the silver moonlight scattered, a thunderclap suddenly cracked and a dazzling purple bolt struck down. Keqing now held an ancient, magnificent longsword, the Dragon's Roar, in the scabbard. This 8th grade close combat spirit tool carried a paralyzing effect on strikes, rendering foes helpless. It bore the amplification spirit ability, stepping on fire and resting on thunder, which vastly strengthened lightning attribute spirit masters. The weapon had been specially commissioned by Lu Jingming of the Black Tower for Keqing, whose spirit was lightning, so the sword and her spirit complemented one another perfectly. Normally, an 8th grade weapon required a spirit Douluo to wield, but the Dragon's Roar had been tailored for Keqing, enabling her to use it freely, even at only level 71 spirit power. Beneath the mingled light of moon and lightning, 7 spirit rings began to glow on Keqing. 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 3 black. A surge of spirit power rolled off her like waves, shaking the entire venue. Next to her, Zhang Lexuan's spirit rings lit in the same configuration. 7 rings, identical in color and order. Bathed in lightning and moonlight, the 2 of them looked like descending goddesses. The arena dropped into a stunned silence. Everyone stared at the 2 young girls on the stage, disbelief and awe frozen on their faces as if time itself had paused. In contrast, the other 5 students from St. Freya Academy, despite being spirit ancestors, seemed to pale beside the brilliance of these 2 spirit saints and went almost unnoticed. They didn't mind. These 5 hadn't come for recognition. They'd come to complete a mission and chase the hope of promotion. Focused on their goals, they weren't swayed by the crowd's eyes. In Shrek Academy's resting area, Yan Xiaojie watched Qihing and Zhang Lexuan with knitted brows and a growing headache. From the moment the 2 had emerged from seclusion, he'd had a faint foreboding, a feeling confirmed by Dragon God Douluo Muen's judgment. When Ma Xiaotao told him both Keqing and Zhang Lexuan were entered, the ominous sense only deepened. Now that his premonition had come true, his mood sank further. He looked at Han Ruoruo, Wu Ming, and the others, equally stunned, and sighed helplessly. One spirit saint could still be contained in a 7-person team match. Individual strength would be somewhat limited. 2 spirit saints, however, made the situation almost impossible. Whether an individual elimination, 2-2-3 battles, or full team fights, their combination was devastating. Yan Xiaojie could already picture the likely outcome. Shrek Academy's 10,000-year undefeated streak might finally be broken at this grand competition. The thought filled him with unwillingness and regret. He found himself wondering if things would have been different had he altered the conditions back then. Sister Roro, Hua Yao, Gu Fan, and even Wu Ming all looked to Han Ruoruo, their faces a tangle of anxiety and confusion. Han Ruoruo herself was grave, but she forced a steadying smile and tried to reassure them. It's okay. We'll do our best. Besides, their other teammates are a little weaker. We might still pull through. Chapter 52. A Welcome Sight. Although Han Ruoruo was doing her best to steady her teammates, she knew the truth. Once a spirit saint released their spirit avatar, that power was on another level, something a spirit emperor could hardly stand against. Her reassurances were mostly to bolster morale. Even normally carefree Wu Ming felt a chill. They were representing Shrek Academy in this tournament, and as this generation's Shrek 7 Devils, a loss would bring unbearable pressure and merciless public scorn. Shrek Academy had held the championship for 10,000 years, over 2,000 consecutive titles. The outcry if they lost now would be unimaginable. The fans around them would not accept defeat, no matter the opponent's strength. As anxiety pressed down like a mountain, a calm, steady voice cut through the tension. Do your best. Don't worry. The Academy won't blame you if you lose. The words made Han Ruoruo and the others freeze. Yan Xiaojie blurted, Teacher! The outcry of Teacher drew startled looks from Ling Luoqin and the reserve team, and even the composed members of the official squad were shaken. Yan Xiaojie, Dean of Shrek Academy's Spirit Department, was a level 95 Super Douluo, and his teacher was still alive. That alone made people wonder how formidable this teacher must be. Xiaojie, whatever happens, protect them. Losing once won't ruin you. It might even be a good thing. Do you understand? Muen's voice was calm, showing no trace of panic at the prospect of losing the title. To him, a defeat could act as a wake-up call, something to rouse those who had grown complacent on 10,000 years of glory. He'd noticed the gap between Sun Moon Royal Spirit Tool Academy and Shrek Academy narrowing. If Shrek Academy continued to rest on its laurels, the consequences would eventually be dire. Compared to being beaten by Sun Moon Royal Spirit Tool Academy, a loss to St. Freya Academy, another power from the original Douluo Three Kingdoms, might be less damaging, perhaps even beneficial. Yes, teacher. Yan Xiaojie's face was grave. Though inwardly reluctant, he couldn't argue with Muen. Han Ruoruo and the others exchanged looks of relief. The overwhelming pressure that had nearly driven them to consider reckless, desperate measures had eased. Without Muen's intervention, things might very well have turned tragic. News of St. Freya Academy's two spirit saints appearing spread like wildfire. Their arrival electrified Heavendo City and drew everyone's curiosity. For years, Shrek Academy had dominated the Spirit Master world, claiming the championship for 10,000 straight years. Such prolonged supremacy bred resentment among many powers, but until now, they had dared not act because of Shrek Academy's overwhelming strength. St. Freya Academy's sudden rise looked like the dark horse that might finally topple that hegemony. Outwardly, some forces kept their composure. Inwardly, they seethed with excitement. As long as Shrek Academy didn't lose to Sun Moon Royal Spirit Tool Academy, having another original Douluo Three Kingdom Academy take the crown was a welcome sight. Many secretly longed to see Shrek's dominance broken. The Emperor of the Heaven Soul Empire was among them. He had praised St. Freya Academy repeatedly to Vina, speaking with unabashed admiration. Though St. Freya belonged to the Star Luo Empire rather than the Heaven Soul Empire, the Emperor felt a thrill at the thought of Shrek Academy's 10,000-year throne finally being challenged. Shrek City, technically under the Heaven Soul Empire, in practice ran itself. From taxes to municipal affairs, it operated like a state within a state, a constant thorn in the Emperor's sides. Shrek Academy's power and influence made the Heaven Soul Empire hesitant to act openly, and the Academy's strategic location at the exit of the Stardew Great Forest meant the original Douluo Three Kingdoms had to work with Shrek to guard against spirit beast tides. For all these reasons, even grudgingly, the empires tolerated Shrek Academy's exceptional autonomy. Continental Observer. The lofty title captured how dominant Shrek Academy was on the Douluo Continent. Were it not for external threats like the Sun Moon Empire, the other original Douluo Three Kingdoms might have long made removing Shrek Academy a top priority. 4,000 years ago, when Shrek's Sea God Pavilion Master issued a command, nearly 100 titled Douluo answered. That force was world-shaking and terrifying. Even the three great empires seemed fragile in its presence. That event had pushed the empire's unease with Shrek Academy to its zenith. Those with eyes to see understood that the three empires all kept Shrek in check through subtle restrictions rather than outright confrontation. One clear example: royal family members were strictly forbidden from entering Shrek Academy. The leaders of the empires feared their children would be swept up by Shrek's unique environment and ethos, becoming alienated from their own dynasties and, in extremity, threatening the ruling foundations. Shrek's teaching staff, rare treasures, and even the plain treasure known as the Golden Tree were magnets. Still, the empires preferred to forgo those benefits than risk losing influence over their heirs. For now, the competition raged on, and the eyes of the continent were fixed on Heaven Dew City. The arrival of Saint Freya's spirit saints had changed the stakes. Whether that change would be a blessing or a disaster for Shrek Academy depended on what happened next. Chapter 53. The Final Showdown. The All-Continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy Soul Fighting Tournament ran on a long schedule and was expected to last nearly a month. It was split into 3 stages: the Elimination Round, the Round Robin, and the Grand Finals. Shrek Academy had steamrolled through the first 2 stages, winning every match as if an autumn wind were sweeping away fallen leaves. When a team includes Spirit Saint-level powerhouses, most opponents simply cannot contend. Resistance feels futile in the face of absolute strength. Lu Jingming saw it clearly. With 2 Spirit Saints on the roster, Shrek Academy was a dimensionality reduction strike. In a tournament where a Spirit King was already top tier and Spirit Emperors were rare, almost no one could threaten King and Zhang Lexuan. Worse still for anyone facing them, these 2 were not ordinary Spirit Saints. Both bore top-tier spirits and carried potent spirit tools. In fights of the same rank, they were not invincible, but they belonged to a different class entirely. This competition was nothing like the later Sun Moon Empire tournament, where lifted restrictions and a changed format produced many Spirit Emperors and even 4 Spirit Saints. Even in that future contest, the current Shrek team would have stood out. As expected, Shrek Academy cut through the field, defeating renowned schools, including the Star Luo Empire's Royal Academy. That victory burned resentment into Shujuju's gaze as she watched Lu Jingming. She was not competing but had come as a reserve for the Star Luo Royal Academy, and her frustration was obvious. After Shrek beat Diao Academy and the Sun Moon Royal Spirit Toolmaster Academy, the tournament neared its end and the finals began. 6 Spirit Ability, Soul Shackles. Han Roro's lips barely parted, and the command slipped out delicate as glass. Her spirit, the shaking gold rope, transformed instantly into a chain of mental force and locked onto Keqing. Keqing reacted with lightning speed. The first spirit ring on her body flashed, and she activated her first spirit ability, Starfall Return, becoming a streak of lightning to teleport to a pre-marked position. But Han Roro's 6th ability was aimed not at the body, but the soul. The invisible rope wound around Keqing's consciousness like a heavy hand, suppressing her mental force and binding the spirit ability she was about to release. She found herself suddenly shackled, unable to use spirit abilities. That was the terrifying edge of soul shackles. The shaking gold rope could become a chain of mental force and attack the target's soul directly. If the target's mental force was weaker than Han Roro's, they would be plunged into a mental shackled state, unable to use spirit abilities for 30 seconds. Even if their mental force was stronger, they would still be restricted for 5 seconds. Keqing's mental force was higher than Han Roro's, but she could not escape. Those 5 seconds were enough to be fatal in a rapidly shifting battle. Minger. Seeing Keqing controlled, Han Roro shouted to her teammate. Wuming, Minger, rose, wings blazing with true golden crow fire, her fiery plumage burning like a miniature sun. 6th spirit ability, Corona Ring, she unleashed, condensing a brilliant sun ring above her head. Scorching heat radiated outward like a tide of flame, the air itself seeming to ignite. The corona ring gathered and compressed that heat into a golden column of fire that roared toward King. "Did you forget about me?" Zhang Lexuan's clear, cold voice cut through the roar. Silver moonlight gathered, hanging high and pure. The fifth spirit ring on Zhang Lexuan shimmered, and she seemed to merge with the moonlight, radiating a sacred, inviolable aura. Fifth spirit ability, Grand Yin Annihilation Divine Light. A biting chill spread from her like ripples. Where it passed, Wu Ming's blazing heat was instantaneously dispelled, as if ice met flame. Silver moonlight condensing in front of Zhang Lexuan formed a pale pillar of light carrying extreme cold. It arrived after the corona ring, but swiftly overtook it. When fire and moonlight collided, time seemed to hold. Sun and moon powers crashed into each other, erupting in a ball of destructive energy. The blast of light and heat burned the eyes of the crowd. Everyone instinctively shielded their faces. Through that raging light came King's crisp voice. Third spirit ability, Sword Light as I Am. She became a brilliant lightning sword, moving with ghostly speed and delivering several fierce slashes around Wu Ming in the storm of light. Wu Ming stifled a groan. She had just expended her sixth spirit ability and had no time to recover. Keiqing's blade-quick assault hit her from behind. One slash severed her wings mid-stroke. Powerful lightning energy surged through her body, paralyzing her. She lost control and fell from the sky like a kite with a broken string. Han Roro, moving to rescue her teammate, froze. 7 moonwheel sword shadows, emitting pale lunar light, had silently positioned themselves at her vital points. Any movement would trigger them and deliver a fatal strike. Han Roro looked up at Zhang Lexuan, the silver moon still high above, her body haloed in sacred light like a moon goddess descended. A bitter smile crossed Han Roro's lips. She glanced at Wu Ming, kneeling in front of King, broken and bewildered, and at her other teammates strewn unconscious. Her voice was dry, edged with despair and helplessness. "We surrender." Chapter 54. Yan Xiaozhe, protector of his own, whoosh! As Han Roro admitted defeat, the arena exploded into an uproar. This was the second match of the grand finals, the 7-person team contest. In the first individual knockout, Shrek Academy, knowing St. Freya Academy had 2 spirit saints and had no chance one-on-one, had conceded deliberately to preserve strength, putting all their hopes on the team competition and the 2-2-3 lineup. Yet no one expected that even in the team match, Shrek Academy would seize an opportunity and knock 5 of St. Freya's spirit ancestors off the stage, creating a seemingly insurmountable 7 versus 2 advantage, only to be undone by those 2 overwhelming spirit saints. They were powerless to change the outcome. The championship of the All-Continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy Spirit Fighting Tournament did not go to the expected Shrek Academy, but to the previously unknown St. Freya Academy. Angry shouts and heated argument rolled through the Heaven Dew Great Spirit Arena like surf. Han Ruo and Wu Ming stood pale as paper, exhausted from the fight, and shaken by the crowd's accusations. Their teammates lay unconscious, spared the humiliation of being yelled at. In that moment, the 2 girls even envied them for it. "Silence!" A roar cut through the chaos as a terrifying aura swept the arena. The crowd's breath caught, as if an invisible mountain pressed on their chests. Yan Xiaozhe moved like lightning, appearing above the stage. His gaze swept the silent spectators, and he said in a deep, commanding voice, "Victory and defeat are part of combat. They've done their best. No one has the right to blame them." Yan Xiaozhe felt the same unwillingness burning in his heart, but he had promised Muen he would not allow Han Roro and the others to be harmed, not physically and not mentally. Shrek Academy punished its own members internally. It was not for outsiders to insult them. Shrek protected its own. The aura of a titled Douluo pressed down so heavily that ordinary spectators could only quell their jeers and swallow their resentment. He said nothing more. His look toward Zhang Lexuan and Keiqing was complicated. There was reluctance, helplessness, and a feeling that defied words. Then he gathered Han Ruoro and the others and slowly left the stage. Those 2 who had ended Shrek Academy's 10,000-year reign were, ironically, products of Shrek itself. If not for that year of cultivating under the golden tree, Zhang Lexuan and Qing might never have broken through to Spirit Saint before the tournament. Had they not progressed, Saint Freya's original lineup might not have toppled Shrek. The 2023 All-Continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy Spirit Fighting Tournament closed in shock. Saint Freya Academy had ridden an unstoppable surge like a dark horse, overturning a 10,000-year pattern and seizing the championship. The result detonated across the Douluo Continent like a bomb. By the next day, the news had spread to every corner. Shrek Academy and Saint Freya Academy were thrust into the spotlight. Shrek, the former 10,000-year champion, faced unprecedented scrutiny and self-doubt. The academy was wrapped in a solemn mood. Saint Freya, on the other hand, rose overnight, awash in prestige and attention. After claiming the champion's reward, 3 10,000-year-old spirit bones, Lu Jingming said farewell to Vina, who had come to see him off, and departed with Shujuju for the return trip to the Star Luo Empire. Swish! A chilling blue sword chi, sharp as bone-deep cold, cleaved a black-clad man, 8 spirit rings glinting across his body, in 2 at the waist. The ice sealed the corpse into a clear crystal sculpture. The strike was clean and swift, not even a drop of blood spilled. The sight was eerie and shocking. Titled Douluo, the intel was wrong. Run! A panicked scream cut through the night. Black-clad figures like startled birds scattered, desperate to escape death's shadow. Since you're here, you won't be leaving. Jinglu's voice was calm and cold. Before she finished, several ice swords flashed out like meteor streaks, tearing through the air with sonic booms. Screams came from afar, and within Lu Jingming's perception, several brief sparks of life, like wind-blown candles, were extinguished without a trace. Lu Jingming tossed the 3 10,000-year spirit bones in his hand, a trace of emotion passing over his face. Spirit bones always draw covetous eyes, he said slowly. I didn't expect that even 3 of them would lure spirit Douluo-level powerhouses. They charged in without verifying the intel? Qing frowned. She was puzzled by such reckless behavior. Sea Abyss City has some fame because of the simulated universe and the Black Tower. Some know of Teacher's existence, but most have no idea. Lu Jingming was unruffled. Although the simulated universe came from our hands and Shrek Academy led the way, very few truly understand Sea Abyss City. Most forces don't pay it much attention. This time, their target was Saint Freya Academy. To them, Saint Freya is a parvenu who got lucky, only winning because 2 geniuses happened to appear. Aside from you, Qing, and Sister Lexuan, the rest of the academy isn't especially fearsome, so they assumed the championship was merely chance. That arrogant misjudgment cost those attackers their lives. Chapter 55, Guyue arrives. Lu Jingming turned the 3 spirit bones over in his hands. All 3 were 10,000-year grade, excellent in texture and attributes. The Heavenly Spirit Empire's rewards had indeed been generous, but he didn't take them to heart. He had no intention of refining these bones himself, nor did he want Zhang Lexuan or Qing to absorb them. Once a spirit bone was refined, it was gone forever. Using such rare 10,000-year bones on them would squander potential. As the helmsman of a faction now, however, he could use these bones as priceless rewards for subordinates who had performed outstanding service. Whether for the Golden Guard or the Impermanence Division, scarce resources like spirit bones would be vital to their future development. By then, Lu Jingming and his group had split off from Shuju and already passed Star Luo City. Shujuju had been eager to host them as guests there, but Lu Jingming had politely declined. It was precisely because they had separated from her that those harboring ill intentions dared to set their sights on Saint Freya Academy. Word had spread that Star Luo Royal Academy would inevitably have a titled Douluo at the head of any visiting team, and that made most people think twice. Sun Moon Empire, Mingdu. Teacher, that's everything. We didn't beat Shrek Academy or win the championship, but Shrek failed to keep their title. Saint Freya Academy defeated them. Thousand Machine Douluo Baishu reported respectfully to the white-robed, silver-haired elder before him. Baishu's spirit power rank was only 1 rank below the old man's. In a real fight, he wouldn't last long. The elder was not only Baishu's spirit tool teacher, but a twin spirit master whose attainments in spirit tools were nearly those of a rank 10 spirit tool master. This was Baishu's teacher, the former Mingde Hall Master, now Hall Master of the Imperial Worship Hall. Silver Moon Duuluo Deming. Deming, along with Mirror Toad Douluo Jingming and Starry Sky Douluo Yeyulin, was famed among the Sun Moon Empire's three great spirit tool masters. Those in the know considered Deming the strongest of the three. He had once taught both Jingming and Yeyulin. Spirit tool masters in the Sun Moon Empire had surged early by consuming many medicinal pills to boost spirit power, but they tended to hit a bottleneck in the late stages, often stalling at rank 94 and unable to progress further. Jingming and Yeyulin were such cases. Deming was different. Although he had also remained at rank 94 for years, his twin spirits and spirit tool talent gave him a real chance to break through to rank 95 and into the Super Duo realm. If he succeeded, becoming a rank 10 spirit tool master would be inevitable. At that level, even an ordinary limit Douluo would be no match. If it's only about this, you needn't have come to tell me, Deming said flatly. He'd seen countless all-continent Advanced Academy soul-fighting competitions and wasn't easily moved. Like Dragon God Duo Mu-En, he understood that the victories and defeats of young fighters were transient. Baishu expected that response. Teacher, I did see the Silver Moon Spirit, but she isn't from our empire. At the mention of Silver Moon Spirit, Deming's tone changed. Who? Saint Freya Academy, Zhang Lexuan, from Seabis City in the Star Luo Empire. Baishu replied. He had already gathered the intelligence, and Zhang Lexuan's background was easy enough to trace. I see. Deming's eyes grew distant, unreadable. You may go. Baishu bowed, puzzled by his teacher's reaction, and left. Deming turned his gaze northward toward the Star Luo Empire. Seabis City, he murmured. Has humanity developed so rapidly? Seabis City, Star Luo Empire. The black-haired girl, Gu Yue, looked up at the city's futuristic skyline and frowned slightly. 10,000 years ago, when she had awakened during the War of the Three Gods, she had observed the human world then. The civilization of that age had been nowhere near as advanced as this. Walking through Seabis City, she nimbly avoided a passing spirit tool tram. Everything she passed filled her with curiosity. Her eyes shone with the delight of discovery. Following the signs through the city, Guyo reached Saint Freya Academy. A long line had formed at the entrance, young people waiting to register for the academy's entrance exam. Since Saint Freya Academy had won the championship of the 2023 All-Continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy Soul Fighting Competition, its reputation had exploded. No matter how outsiders debated the result, some calling it luck, the fact remained that Saint Freya had defeated Shrek Academy and taken the title. Students who felt they couldn't get into Shrek flocked to Seabis City to try their luck at Saint Freya, creating a bustling scene at the gates. This was the Academy's second new student enrollment since the championship, and even more people had come this time. After 2 years of development, and with Lu Jingming's investment, Saint Freya Academy had risen to become the top school in the Star Luo Empire, second only to Star Luo Royal Academy. Faculty and resources had been upgraded to match first-class institutions. To handle the crowds, Saint Freya set up 5 registration lines, so Guyo didn't wait long before it was her turn. A kindly-looking female teacher in uniform handed her a form. Guyo read it carefully and began to fill it out. Name, gender, female, age 11. Spirit Elementalist, Spirit Power Rank, rank 38, Spirit Elder Spirit Ring configuration, yellow, purple, purple. The female teacher took the completed form, and her surprise was immediate. She glanced at the spirit tool detector beside her. Its readout showed Guye's bone age and spirit power rank exactly matching the information on the form. The teacher's eyes shone with pleasant astonishment. Talent like this was only seen in a handful of the Academy's S-rank students. Chapter 56, Holographic Strategy. The female teacher looked at Guyu with pleasant surprise. Recruiting an S-rank student would earn her a substantial reward from Saint Freya Academy. The Academy was famous for its wealth and influence. It offered generous scholarships to outstanding students and handsome bonuses to teachers whose pupils excelled. That was why in just 2 years, Saint Freya had poached so many instructors from other Spirit Master academies. Higher pay made it easier to support families and secure a better future for their children. Guyue was only 11, yet already at rank 38 Spirit Elder. Talent like that would make her a prized student anywhere. If she passed the entrance assessment, S rank was almost guaranteed. Your name is Guyu, right? Welcome to St. Freya Academy. I'll take you to the entrance assessment. The result will determine which class you're assigned to, the teacher said with a warm smile. She handed the registration to a senior student assisting at the desk and personally led Guyu into the academy. The senior watched them go with envy. Being personally escorted by a teacher to the assessment meant Guyu's talent must be extraordinary. Glancing at the registration notes, a trace of shock crossed his face. This girl reminded him of the Academy's S-rank prodigies, the kind who could one day become city lords. He gritted his teeth. He himself was only D rank, and whether he would ever break through to the Spirit King realm remained uncertain. "Teacher, what does the entrance assessment test?" Guyu asked, curiosity evident. The teacher's cautious demeanor had already suggested its importance. "Hey, St. Freya is different from other Spirit Master academies," the teacher said patiently. "We test not only spirit power rank, but also combat ability and adaptability. Your performance will determine your ranking within the academy." Ranking? Guyu's eyes lit up. Yes, the academy divides students into 5 ranks: S, A, B, C, and D. A-rank students have the potential to become titled Douluo. The teacher explained that ranks were not fixed. Students would be reassessed based on progress and performance in academy evaluations. Growth was expected. With the right opportunities, ranks could change. Higher ranks meant better classes, stronger teachers, and even the chance for personal guidance from Her Excellency Shuiyu. When the teacher mentioned Shuiyu's name and looked at Guyu, her excitement was hard to hide. An S-rank prodigy would be a treasure. Though Principal Jingliu treated all students fairly and would teach even D-rank pupils, the academy's rapid expansion had made it difficult for one person to personally mentor every student. That was why the ranking system had been adopted. Only those who showed steady improvement and high performance earned the chance for closer attention. The system, in fact, came from Lu Jingming's suggestion. Rankings should reflect overall quality, combat skill, adaptability, spirit control, not just raw talent. Still, raw talent made moving up easier. On the Douluo Continent, spirit aptitude was decisive. "We're here. This is the assessment facility," the teacher said, bringing Guyu back from her thoughts. They entered a teaching building, walked a long corridor, and arrived at a spacious hall filled with metal pods. Some pods had their hatches closed with students of similar age inside, apparently undergoing evaluation. The teacher tapped her card against a slot beside an empty pod. With a soft ding, the hatch slid open. "This is a spirit tool linked to the simulated universe," she explained, pride in her voice. "It's not the ordinary login devices you see outside. It's an academy-developed system called holographic strategy. Once you enter, it matches you with a suitable opponent for a live combat assessment." She continued, "Difficulty is divided into 6-star ranks. Pass 5-star, and you can be rated S rank. If you pass the 6-star level, a titled Douluo will personally guide you, and the academy will invest substantial cultivation resources in you." Hearing that, a faint light flashed in Guyu's eyes. She knew the concept of the simulated universe. Ms. Herda, the developer, lived in Seabis City, and many improvements had been made to the system, but she had never used St. Freya's holographic strategy before. Under the teacher's guidance, Guyu lay down in the pod. The interior was unexpectedly comfortable, releasing a faint, calming scent that eased away tension. As her mental force linked with the illusory world, a flash of light filled her vision. When it cleared, she found herself standing in a vast square. The environment felt real: solid stone underfoot, a clear blue sky above, and a gentle breeze carrying a fresh fragrance. "Holographic strategy at your service, Student Guyu. Please select the assessment difficulty." The slightly mechanical voice echoed clearly inside Guyu's mind. A softly glowing, suspended screen materialized in front of her, neatly listing difficulties from 1-star to 6-star. Each option seemed to challenge her. Guyu studied the screen with bright, curious eyes. She was interested in this new assessment system and decided to start from the bottom to learn the rules. After a moment's thought, she tapped the 1-star difficulty. "Holographic strategy is generating an opponent for you. Please wait." A pinkish-white light gathered in the center of the plaza and took shape. When it resolved, Guyue found herself looking at an enormous mosquito, about a meter long, its body sheathed in a smooth, white, jade-like exoskeleton. Strange pinkish-purple patterns traced across its shell, and a halo of the same color floated above its head like a crown. The creature gave off a dangerous, eerie aura. As co-lord of spirit beasts, Guyue considered herself well acquainted with the fauna of the Douluo Continent, but this insect was completely unfamiliar. She frowned in puzzlement, then a sharp buzzing split the air. Danger slammed into her instinctively. She barely had time to slide aside when a fierce gust tore past, and the white mosquito streaked through the spot she'd vacated, the razor stinger on its head missing her by mere inches. So fast, she thought, narrowing her eyes. This wasn't a foe to be underestimated, despite the lowest difficulty rating. A sphere of scorching flame coalesced in her palm, spinning and cracking with heat. She let out a soft cry and hurled it at the mosquito like a small cannonball. The insect's response was startling. It beat its wings so rapidly it left afterimages, and instead of dodging the fireball, it slammed into it head-on. With a muffled bang, the fireball shattered into sparks that scattered everywhere. None of them marked the mosquito's exoskeleton. Guyue's brow tightened. "Strong elemental resistance," she muttered. She changed tactics. The earth beneath her feet trembled, and several hard spikes shot up like bamboo shoots after rain, stabbing at the mosquito. Caught off guard, it couldn't dodge and was impaled. With a piercing insect cry, its body dispersed into countless pinkish-white motes of light. Rather than vanishing, those motes streamed toward Guyue and merged into her. She felt it at once, the subtle swelling of mental force and spirit power, a faint but real increase in physical strength. The energy folding into her felt strange and refined, far exceeding ordinary spirit energy. In the simulated universe rewards she knew of, one usually gained only mental force. This holographic strategy's energy was enhancing her across the board. What is this? What kind of energy? Guyue's pupils contracted. She let herself hope that, if she absorbed more of it, her main body's injuries might heal faster. That thought made her impatient. She applied for a higher difficulty. The light reappeared and produced 3 identical white mosquitoes. From her first fight, she already had a read: incredible speed, tough defense, some elemental immunity, but predictable movement. A single 2-ring spirit grandmaster could handle one if skilled, but 3 at once would overwhelm most. Guyue didn't flinch. A confident smile tilted her lips, and a potent aura surged outward. She condensed sharp wind blades in her hands and slashed. The blades whistled like knives through the air, cutting cleanly through the mosquito's exoskeletons. Each dissolved into the same pinkish-white motes and merged into her, bringing another wave of strengthening. After clearing 2-star, she immediately challenged 3-star. When the light faded this time, the plaza held not insects, but a towering, armored figure, a 3-meter-tall knight astride a massive warhorse. The whole assembly bore the same white exoskeleton, crossed with pinkish-purple patterns. The knight raised a white spear ringed in condensing purple energy. A purple shield shimmered over its body. It charged like a living battering ram. 3 meters of armored force, the mount adding to the impact. Hoofbeats thudding and dust flying. Despite its offense and defense, Guyue saw its probable weakness. It was comparatively slow. With her agility, she could buy the reactions she needed. She steadied herself and prepared to strike. A white spear sliced through the air with a whistle. Guyue barely tapped the ground, and her whole body was wrapped in a rush of wind, making her as light as a feather as she slipped past the white knight's thrust. She spun her hands and condensed several fireballs that rolled forward with roaring heat, smashing into the giant knight. Boom! Flames shot up and the air bent under the blast. Smoke and fire swirled, but the giant knight's purple shield only dimmed slightly. It did not break. It bellowed and staggered out of the blaze, still charging toward Guyue with savage intent. The wind element surged, whipping Guyue's black hair and skirt into a frenzy. She floated, light-footed, and suddenly a green tornado wrapped around her. A cold light glinted in her eyes. Riding the vortex, she launched a fierce flying kick into the knight's glowing purple shield. The kick set off a chain reaction. The green gale shredded into countless wind blades that lashed at the knight like a rain of razors. Bang! The shield shattered like blown glass, scattering into motes of light. The knight's white armor, vulnerable under the slicing wind, cracked as if rotted. Guyo didn't relent. She drew her leg up and gathered green light like a flood. A crescent wind blade sliced down through the air with a whistling scream, and where it passed the world seemed to ripple. In an instant, the white knight was cleaved in two, then dissolved into scattered light. Guyue exhaled in satisfaction. The surge of power from her victory thrilled her spirit, and she let herself savor the high for a heartbeat before pressing on to the 4-star assessment. This time, 3 white knights materialized, huge, oppressive. Guyu's expression remained calm. Having beaten one, she trusted her agility and skill to handle 3. She danced between them, avoiding blows and probing for openings, and slowly but surely felled them one by one. The fight drained time and energy, but her technique carried her through, and she completed the 4-star trial. At that point, she could have stopped and still been rated an A-rank student. But Guyo wanted more. She wanted an S-rank, and even more, the high-grade energy that came with it, energy that would accelerate growth for both her incarnation and her main body. The 5-star trial appeared. A spirit beast she had never seen before loomed before her. It was 10 meters tall, its body sheathed in white armor as hard as iron, gleaming coldly. Its head was small against the bulk of its body, while its 4 limbs were massive and barrel-thick, packed with crushing power. Its feet were like giant hammers that could smash pits into the ground with each step. Jagged spikes ran down its 4 limbs and back, giving it a terrifying, hulking silhouette. Guyue's lip twitched. This was raw power, no finesse, no magic tricks, just brute force and a dreadful presence. Passing a 5-star trial would be S-rank for a reason. This creature's strength was akin to a 10,000-year spirit beast. For a newly enrolled student, such a trial was astronomical, an almost impossible climb. Compared to the 3 white knights, which a top-tier spirit elder might still contend with, this beast would make even a spirit king think twice. Before she could finish the thought, the white mass rocketed at her like a cannonball. It slammed down with a thunderous impact, sending shockwaves and violent gusts that hurled Guyu through the air. Her face went pale. In the split second, she twisted the wind to catch herself and stabilize. She had only caught a glimpse, a white blur, and then the giant beast was already falling. If she'd hesitated half a beat longer, she'd have been pulverized into something like Guyo paste. Its speed was more terrifying than the white mosquito she'd first faced, despite being 10 times larger. A body that size hitting at that velocity would obliterate her. She drew a breath. No more holding back. This fight demanded everything. Her connection to the elements flared. Red, blue, yellow, green, black, and white light condensed behind her. 6 spheres of varying hues, rotating like tiny stars and humming with raw power. Each held a different element: burning flame, deep water currents, crushing earth, swift wind, sacred light, and eerie darkness. They orbited her in perfect balance. Then they fired, 6 piercing beams of elemental energy, streaking like lightning through the void toward the towering white beast. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions rattled the air and the ground trembled. The beast's movements were lumbering, but when it moved, it unleashed sudden, brutal bursts of speed that sent winds tearing outward. Its defense proved astonishing. The elemental lasers struck, and the creature's body only quivered. The hits failed to penetrate significantly. Its armor shrugged off the attacks. Worse, its offense was bone-chilling. Those thick limbs and spikes were not just for show. Any direct hit would be fatal. Even a grazing blow could leave her broken. Guye felt the weight of that possibility settle cold in her chest. Chapter 59, 6-star trial. Inside the holographic strategy simulation, Guyu fought desperately. Outside in the strategy room, the atmosphere was just as tense. A female teacher stared at the metal pod enclosing Guyu. 4 of the 6 stars above the pod were already lit, and joy instantly brightened the teacher's face. Those 4 lit stars meant Guyu had passed the 4-star assessment and was now attempting the 5-star, an A-grade student in the making. That kind of result guaranteed generous rewards for the teacher, so she couldn't hide her excitement. Wen, aren't you in charge of new student registration? What are you doing here? Wei Chanchan entered the holographic strategy room with the 9-year-old sisters Lan Susu and Lan Luoluo at her side. When Wei learned that St. Freya Academy was recruiting teachers, she had applied immediately to secure a foothold in Sea Abyss City. With her spirit saint strength, she had been accepted. The appointment brought her closer to Lu Jingming, allowed her to look after her daughters, and came with excellent benefits. As a teacher, Wei knew about the holographic strategy simulation and the secret it hid, the advanced energy it could reward. That energy comprehensively enhanced a spirit master's qualities, making it extraordinarily valuable. For the sake of Lan Susu and Lan Luoluo, Wei had spent the academy points she'd accumulated to buy them multiple chances to enter the simulation and obtain advanced energy. Under that nourishment, the sisters had already become spirit grandmasters at 9. With continued support, especially Lu Jingming's special treatment, they might reach spirit elder in a couple of years. The advanced energy, though, was too rare to hand out freely. Apart from the entrance assessment, it could only be claimed with enough academic credits and points. Wei had also gotten help from Zhang Lexuan and Kei Qing, both of whom doted on the two little girls and contributed points. Wenwen hurried over as soon as she saw Wei enter. "Sister Qianqian, I recruited a genius student. She's already passed the 4-star assessment and is challenging the 5-star, Wenwen said, pride shining on her face. In the St. Freya teacher circle, Wei carried a lot of respect. Her spirit saint status, her ties to the city lord, and her position as head of the Lan family made her influential, so Wenwen felt honored to be congratulated by her. 4 stars already? Congratulations. Wei's eyes lit up. She knew what that milestone meant. Her own daughters were talented but had only passed 2-star and were rated C grade, mainly because they were so young. With Wei's guidance and plenty of resources, she believed she could raise them to A grade. S grade, however, remained a distant prospect in light of the Academy's monstrous elites. "Is this her? So young?" Wei moved closer to the pod and peered inside. Guyu lay there, sleeping, and Wei couldn't help but exclaim. Lan Susu and Lan Luoluo squeezed forward, eyes wide with admiration and envy. They still remembered the terrifying white monsters in the simulation and the lingering fear of being impaled by a white knight's charge during their 3-star trial. Just then, a crisp click broke the hush. The 5th star above Guyue's pod slowly ignited with a soft glow. Hiss! Wei inhaled sharply. Passing the 5-star assessment meant the Academy might produce another S-grade super genius. The news would ripple through St. Freya and across Sea Abyss City. Wenwen stood frozen, stunned. She had suspected Guyu was S-grade material, but seeing her actually pass the 5-star trial on her first assessment felt unreal. Inside the simulation, Guyue knelt on one knee, breathing hard. Sweat soaked her clothes, hair plastered against her face. Her black stockings were torn and ragged, marked by the battle she had just endured. Despite her battered state, she fixed her gaze on the 6-star assessment option and confirmed it without hesitation. The 5-star trial had nearly wrecked her, yes, but who was she? Half-dragon god, descendant of the Silver Dragon King. She wanted to see what this mythical 6-star trial would throw at her. Even if she failed, it wasn't life-threatening, only a severe drain on her mental force, which a few days of meditation could restore. Nearby, Lu Jingming lounged with a pink-furred little fox curled on Zhang Lexuan's lap. He was teasing the fox, wrapped in black silk, when the information reached him. He paused, interest sparking across his face. "Interesting," he murmured. "Besides us, someone else passed the 5-star assessment. I want to see who this is." He produced a black blindfold from a spirit tool, slipped it on, and relaxed back into Zhang Lexuan's embrace. The little fox took advantage of the distraction to wriggle free and dart out the door, eager to gather offerings. Zhang Lexuan had heard his words and, having experienced the 5-star trial herself, showed a curious expression. It was notoriously difficult. Anyone who passed it deserved attention. After Guyue confirmed the 6-star challenge, light swirled and coalesced. This time, the simulation didn't summon a strange spirit beast. Instead, a young man with white hair and red eyes appeared. Tall and slender, handsome, he held a long black spear and carried a distinct, chilling aura. Guyue's eyes narrowed. She knew him very well. One of the main reasons she had come here was for him. Chapter 60, One-Shot Kill. Guyue's eyes drifted to the black long spear clutched in the white-haired young man's hand. The spear hummed with a deadly aura. Her pupils contracted instinctively. Lu Jingming, meanwhile, was scrutinizing the black-haired girl in front of him. Her clothes were disheveled, one shoulder bared, a hint of spring scenery exposed. He muttered to himself, "Don't stare," and forced himself to act like an AI projection, keeping his expression neutral as he watched her. It wasn't that he was ogling her. He was curious. She looked young, about his age, yet her power had already reached the spirit elder level. Even more puzzling, although she appeared battered, she showed no signs of any serious injury. The assessment he'd released was 5-star, featuring a chariot-class Honkai beast. Even a spirit king would need to be cautious. One slip could be fatal. And yet she had not only survived, she'd killed the chariot beast and come out barely hurt. When, in the history of the Douluo Continent during the peerless Tang sect era, had a genius like this appeared? A wild genius, sprung up on her own? Lu Jingming could not help digging into the databases. He wanted to know which family this prodigy belonged to, whether she was someone he'd known from the original timeline. Then he saw the name. So her name is Gu Yue. Gu Yo. The revelation almost made him lose his composure. Even his mental avatar shuddered. The small disturbance caught Gu Yue's attention. She frowned and glanced toward him with a trace of suspicion. Lu Jingming swallowed his shock and smoothed his face. He was presenting himself as an AI projection here. He could not let his cover slip. He forced a poker face and slowly raised the black spear. 2 purple spirit rings and 2 black rings materialized around him in succession, exuding a thick, oppressive aura. Gu Yue's alertness spiked. 1 yellow and 2 purple spirit rings on her own body flared to life, their light cutting through the air around them. With a soft sound, a draft whispered past, and Lu Jingming's figure, moving like Gui Mei, vanished behind Gu Yue in an instant. The long spear, trailing black mist, lashed forward like a venomous snake, aiming straight for her back. A chill ran down Gu Yu's spine. A sudden gust from her shoulder erupted, launching her body forward and giving her just enough separation. She twisted in midair, forming seals with practiced speed. Fireballs, wind blades, earth spikes, and water bullets, an onslaught of elemental attacks, rushed toward Lu Jingming with lethal intent. He met the barrage with an uncanny calm. Leisurely, he pointed the spear. The moment her assaults contacted the shaft, they collapsed into nothing like soap bubbles. Flames and wind dissipated as if they had never been. Gu Yue's face went white. She could feel her spirit power being decomposed, dissolved by whatever force lived in that spear. With spirit power destroyed, a spirit ability was rendered ineffective. This was the spear's power, pure destruction. A cold light crossed Gu Yu's eyes as she prepared to test another tactic. Then, before she knew it, Lu Jingming's handsome face was inches from hers. Blood welled at the corner of her mouth. Her body stiffened. She looked down and saw the black spear had found her heart. She felt everything unmake itself: spirit power, blood, flesh, mental force, even her soul as the spear's destructive property tore it apart. Confusion glazed her features as her form began to fragment into drifting specks of light. Lu Jingming watched her dissolve and felt a pang he hadn't expected. He never thought the Silver Dragon King would appear in this era. In the original timeline, she should only heal some of her wounds and not transform until 10,000 years later. And the fact she had come to St. Freya Academy now made things worse. If her target wasn't him, he'd be very surprised. He shook his head and gave himself a private, unconvinced reassurance. She's just a lovesick silver dragon princess. How hard can she be? Satisfied, Lu Jingming turned his attention to the holographic system he'd spent so much to create. Shrek Academy had the golden tree. St. Freya had its own holographic strategy. His answer, and he felt no less proud. The holographic system was an external simulation plugin for the universe, its core powered by the Conqueror gem Lu Jingming had obtained. The gem, from a game called Honkai Impact 3rd, could continuously absorb origin chi and external spirit power, converting them into advanced Honkai energy. Herta had bound and refined that Honkai energy during the conversion, stripping it of its corrosive properties and purifying it into a safe, high-grade power. This harmless Honkai energy was a cultivation treasure, perhaps even more effective than the golden tree's life force. It could boost a spirit master's spirit power, mental strength, and physical resilience with ease. Miraculously, it could also extend spirit ring lifespans and even enhance spirit quality, though those effects demanded enormous amounts of Honkai energy. Lu Jingming had no desire to reveal those game-changing abilities yet. His primary goal in commissioning Herta to build the holographic strategy was to put Saint Freya on equal footing with Shrek Academy, if not ahead. For now, the Conqueror Gem's energy absorption and conversion efficiency still needed improvement. Running the holographic system consumed most of the Honkai energy it produced, so reaching the level where he could freely extend spirit ring lifespans and uplift spirit quality would take time. But given enough Honkai energy, even upgrading spirit rings into 900,000-year lifespans wouldn't be fantasy, just a matter of patience and resources.